Emma Johnson threw her turn signal on and eased her Honda Civic into the empty parking space near the entrance of Ridgewood Market. It had been a long-ass shift at the precinct, and all she wanted was to grab some groceries and get home to Max, her German shepherd. As she turned off the ignition, she caught sight of a white Lexus SUV idling in the lane, the driver making exaggerated gestures of frustration through the windshield. "Seriously?" Emma muttered under her breath. She hadn't cut anyone off. The spot had been empty. But experience had taught her that some folks in this upscale Atlanta suburb operated with their own special set of rules that didn't include people who looked like her. As Emma gathered her purse, the SUV's passenger door flew open. A white woman in her 60s with an expensive blonde bob and tennis bracelet stormed toward Emma's car, her face contorted with entitlement and rage. "Hey, you!" the woman shouted, rapping her manicured nails against Emma's window. "That's our spot! We were waiting for it!" Emma took a deep breath before opening her door, which forced the woman to step back. 10 years as a police officer had taught her how to handle confrontations without escalation, though civility was getting harder to muster on her days off. "Ma'am, I didn't see anyone waiting." The spot was empty when I pulled in. The woman, Susan, Emma would later learn, performed an exaggerated eye roll. "Oh, please, you saw us sitting there with our blinker on. You people always think you can just take whatever you want." There it was. You people. The verbal slap that communicated so much more than its simple words. "Excuse me," Emma said, stepping fully out of her car now, her spine straightening. "You heard me," Susan sneered, her gaze travelling from Emma's natural curls to her sensible shoes with undisguised disdain. "This isn't your neighborhood, honey. Ridgewood has standards." The SUV's driver door opened, and a balding man in a golf polo approached, his face flushed with the kind of anger white men in luxury vehicles seem to reserve for minor inconveniences. "What's the problem here, Susan?" he demanded, though his attention was fixed on Emma in a way that made it clear who he considered the problem. "This girl stole our parking spot, Daniel," Susan declared, emphasizing girl, though Emma was clearly in her 30s. Probably doesn't even live around here, probably just casing the goods stores. Emma's police training was screaming at her to de-escalate, to walk away, to choose her battles. But something inside her, perhaps the accumulated weight of 1,000 similar interactions, refused to budge. "I'm not moving my car," she stated firmly. "I didn't see anyone waiting for this spot. There are plenty of other spaces just a few rows back." Daniel's face darkened to an alarming shade of crimson. "Listen here, Jungle Bunny. When my wife says we were waiting for that spot, we were waiting for that spot. Now move your ghetto sled before there's trouble." The slur hit Emma like a physical blow. She'd heard worse, much worse, during arrests and domestic calls. But somehow, standing in a suburban parking lot on her day off, it landed differently. "Did you just call me a jungle bunny?" she asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "Oh, here we go," Susan interjected with theatrical exasperation, always playing the race card. So predictable, so urban. A few shoppers had paused their cart pushing to watch the confrontation unfold. Emma noted their expressions: discomfort, curiosity, but not intervention. Not yet. "I'm going to do my shopping now," Emma stated, reaching for her purse in the car. "I suggest you find another parking spot." As she turned away, Daniel lunged forward, kicking her driver's side door. "Don't you walk away from me, you uppity bitch!" The hollow bang of his foot against metal froze Emma mid-motion. She turned, slowly, officer mode kicking in despite being off duty. Sir, you just damaged my property, and now you're using threatening language. I'm asking you to back up and leave me alone. Susan cackled like this was the funniest thing she'd heard all day. Threatening? My God, you coloureds are sensitive. He barely touched your worthless pawnshop car. Daniel moved closer, invading Emma's personal space. His breath smelled of expensive scotch, though it wasn't even noon. You're in the wrong neighbourhood, nappyhead. Affirmative action doesn't apply to parking spots. Something in Emma snapped. Not her composure, that remained intact, but her willingness to absorb abuse for the sake of peace. Step back, she commanded, her voice shifting from civilian to cop in an instant. You're intoxicated and becoming aggressive in a public space. Daniel's eyes widened momentarily, then narrowed with renewed fury. Now the welfare queen is giving orders? Who the hell do you think you are? Before Emma could respond, he grabbed her arm, fingers digging into her flesh with bruising force. I said, move your car, Sheba. Let go of me, Emma shouted, loud enough that even the most distracted bystanders now turned to stare. Take your hands off me now. Instead of releasing her, Daniel tightened his grip and yanked her forward, causing Emma to stumble. Or what, spook? You gonna call the cops? Tell them big bad white folks wouldn't let you steal their parking spot? With a free hand, Emma reached into her purse and pulled out her badge, holding it up so both Daniel and Susan could see it clearly. I am the cops, she stated, her voice steady despite the adrenaline pumping through her system. Officer Emma Johnson, Atlanta PD, and you're now assaulting a police officer. The transformation was immediate and almost comical. Daniel released her arm as if it had burst into flames. Susan's mouth opened and closed wordlessly, her tennis bracelet jingling as she nervously fidgeted with her hands. You can't be... Daniel stammered, backing up a step. A cop? Emma finished for him. Yeah, that's what happens when you make assumptions about people based on their skin color. You end up being dead wrong. By now, a small crowd had gathered. Emma noticed phones raised, recording the confrontation. Good, let there be a record. This is all a misunderstanding, Susan attempted, her previous venom replaced with nervous appeasement. We just thought... The parking spot, we were waiting. Was that before or after your husband called me a jungle bunny? Emma asked, loud enough for the surrounding witnesses to hear. Or maybe it was while he was kicking my car, or perhaps when he physically assaulted me. Which part was the misunderstanding exactly? Daniel's face had transitioned from rage red to fear white. Listen, officer, I've had a couple drinks. I'm not thinking clearly. We can work this out without making a big scene. Emma pulled out her phone. I'm calling this in. You've committed assault, destruction of property, public intoxication, and quite possibly a hate crime, depending on how the DA wants to file it. You can't be serious, Susan shrieked, her country club composure completely evaporated. Do you know who we are? My husband is on the board of Ridgewood Community Association. We donate to the Police Benevolent Fund. Emma ignored her, speaking clearly into her phone after dialing. This is Officer Johnson, badge number 4872. I need a patrol unit at Ridgewood Market. I'm off duty and reporting an assault and possible hate crime. Suspect is still on scene. The next 15 minutes unfolded with the surreal quality of a dream. 2 patrol cars arrived, officers emerging, with the cautious readiness their training demanded. Emma explained the situation, directing them to witnesses who had recorded parts of the confrontation. Daniel, now desperately trying to appear sober, protested that it was all a cultural misunderstanding. Cultural misunderstanding? One of the responding officers, a Latino man named Rodriguez, repeated skeptically, Is that what we're calling racial slurs now? As Daniel was being handcuffed and guided toward a patrol car, Susan made her final stand, blocking Officer Rodriguez's path. "This is reverse racism," she declared, jabbing a finger toward Emma. "She's just doing this because we're white. She's playing the victim card." Rodriguez, to his credit, didn't even break stride. "Ma'am, step aside or you'll be joining your husband for obstruction. And just so we're clear, there's no such thing as reverse racism. There's just racism and your husband's showing textbook signs of it." After Daniel was secured in the back of the patrol car, Emma provided her official statement. The responding officers offered to have someone escort her home, but she declined. The adrenaline was wearing off now, leaving her with the familiar hollow feeling that followed these incidents, a mixture of victory and deep fatigue. When the official business was concluded, Emma finally entered Ridgewood Market, aware of the stares following her through the aisles. Some were hostile, friends of Daniel and Susan, no doubt, who only saw a black woman who had the audacity to stand her ground. Others seemed almost apologetic, though not a single person had intervened until they realized she was law enforcement. At the checkout, the young cashier, a black girl maybe 19 or 20, met Emma's eyes with quiet recognition. "I saw what happened out there," she said softly as she scanned the groceries. "Those same people come in here all the time, talk to me like I'm stupid, ask to see my manager when I card them for alcohol." Emma nodded, understanding perfectly. "And nobody ever says anything?" The girl shrugged, a gesture that contained volumes of resignation. "That's just how it is here." "No," Emma replied, taking her receipt. "That's how it has been. Doesn't mean that's how it stays." As Emma loaded her groceries into her car, the same parking spot, now dented thanks to Daniel's expensive loafers, she noticed Susan sitting alone in their Lexus several rows away, watching her with naked hatred. Emma met her gaze steadily until the older woman looked away first. Small victories. That's how change happened. Not all at once, but through countless individual moments of refusing to move, refusing to accept, refusing to be less than fully human in spaces designed to make you feel unwelcome. Emma started her car, checking the time. Still enough daylight left to take Max for a good long walk when she got home. The thought brightened her mood. Her loyal companion never cared what she looked like or where she parked. In his world, worth was measured in kindness and consistent care, not skin color or socio-economic signals. As she pulled out of Ridgewood Market, Emma caught a final glimpse of Susan in her rearview mirror, still sitting in the Lexus, presumably waiting for someone to bail Daniel out of his self-created mess. For a moment, Emma almost felt sorry for her, trapped in a worldview so narrow and brittle that a black woman existing in her space constituted a threat worthy of public meltdown. The sympathy passed quickly. People like Susan and Daniel made their choices daily, hourly, moment by moment. They chose hate, chose superiority, chose to see humanity as a hierarchy rather than a spectrum of equals. Emma made her choices too. Today, she'd chosen to stand her ground. Tomorrow would bring new choices, new confrontations, new opportunities to either absorb or challenge the Daniel and Susans of the world. For now, though, she was going home to Max, to the space she had claimed as her own. A space where no one questioned her right to exist,